Hello, fellow lightworkers and spiritual warriors. Welcome to the June 2023 edition of the 5D Messages from Mount Shasta. I am Dr. Christina Samesha, intuitive guide and author. I have been posting monthly podcasts of channeled messages from Mount Shasta, root chakra of the planet, to inspire and support fellow lightworkers as we shift into a higher state of consciousness. Please sign up on my YouTube channel to receive my latest podcasts. You can also visit my website, Christina Psyd, that's Christina with the CH, PSYD.com, for more information regarding this collective evolution we are experiencing, as well as information regarding my book, The Journey of Discovering Inner Peace, which has many valuable tools that can be helpful in navigating this challenging yet amazing time. I started working on this podcast on the last few days of May and wrapping it up at the beginning of the month. The energy feels unusually calm. It is amazing that we're almost halfway into 2023, which is the numerological year number 7 and signifies the year of change, evolution, and wisdom. Time has definitely accelerated, or at least it feels as though, as we continue along this ascension process. A few weeks ago, we wrapped up the first pair of eclipses and exited Mercury retrograde. We still have a set of eclipses in October. I have to admit that this month's podcast has been more challenging than the last few because I just don't feel the excited anticipation and heightened energy that I felt as we approached March and went into April. If you recall, we had two extremely powerful alignments in March. Saturn went into Pisces and then Pluto went into Aquarius. In April, there were also some pretty intense planetary shifts that many of us speculated would cause quite a stir in the 3D matrix. But it feels as though it was quite anticlimactic. However, there are still a few shifts on the horizon, which may create yet another contraction in the birthing process as we continue ascending into this higher state of consciousness. As I now look back at the intuitive feelings that there would be some major global occurrence, maybe in fact there were, in that we all went through some intense internal shifts and planted more seeds of higher awareness. This was felt, not necessarily seen. Last month, my podcast focused on us lightworkers taking action in creating a new earth. I would love to hear from all of you as to what action steps you took. This month's podcast, the theme is taking a look back before taking that giant leap forward. Although March and April felt quite powerful, June is the month that I intuitively felt earlier this year as being the most tumultuous, since Pluto will retrograde and return back into Capricorn mid-month and stay there for the rest of the year. Additionally, Saturn will shortly thereafter retrograde in Pisces until November of this year. And then at the end of the month, we will have 3 outer planets in retrograde as Neptune will join both Pluto and Saturn, which will possibly be impacting the collective as the outer planets have more of an influence on the collective. And then in July, we will change nodes from Taurus Scorpio to Aries Libra. Aries, which is the sign of the individual, will be the focus for the next year and a half. Although the energy is calm at the moment, it may not necessarily stay that way. With Pluto going into retrograde, there will likely be more uncovering of the shadow aspects of the current 3D matrix. For the last few years, it has been quite challenging to see the magnitude of the atrocities in the world. It is not that this hasn't always been there, but it appears amplified, because it is a time for us to really see the shadow in order for it to be alchemized, as we replace this old system with one of higher consciousness. However, when examining the state of the world, it is so easy to feel angry and discouraged at all of this. But it is important for us to examine it with detachment and remain in a state of unconditional love for all, which includes those who are perpetrating atrocities as well as those in cognitive dissonance of it. Remember, we were once there too. In our previous incarnations, we were the perpetrators of the dark, as we needed to explore the shadow aspect of reality in order to evolve. Not to mention we were and still are on some level in cognitive dissonance. Additionally, those who are living in a lower state of consciousness are playing a very important role in this ascension process, primarily to wake humanity from this cognitive dissonance and expose the shadow. With Pluto retrograding back, June is the month for us to continue exploring even further the depths of our cognitive dissonance as we move into this new age. I remember a very profound experience I had after visiting Mount Shasta for the second time on the winter solstice of 2020, which opened my eyes to some of my own cognitive dissonance. When I left the mountain, not only did I keep feeling it pulling me back, but I received a very strong message. This message was that big cities were going to become increasingly more dangerous and eventually become dinosaurs, and I was to move out of Chicago as soon as possible. When I arrived back home and drove into the city and saw the Chicago skyline, which was something I had always loved, it felt as though it was horribly wrong. The vibe of the city with all the concrete buildings epitomized a lifestyle that never quite fit me. For quite a while, I had been questioning how healthy was it to live in the city. I had this desire to live in nature, grow my own food, and be part of a community. Although I had always been self-employed and didn't live the fast-paced life that most do, I know I was still influenced by it on some level. Most people work a 40-plus hour work week with very little downtime or time off and seem to be very unhappy, stressed, and unfulfilled, not to mention chronically ill. As a psychologist who worked in downtown Chicago for over 15 years before moving here to Mount Shasta, one of the main issues that most of my clients presented to me was the lack of community. I found it so interesting that in a city of 3 million people, so many felt so terribly lonely. And I felt the same way. Our modern world, especially those working in corporate America, seem to be so disconnected from each other, probably because everybody is working so much and just struggling to get by. I've always found it so odd that with all the modern conveniences, we are still working so hard, and that many of the jobs that we hold only serve to support this unhealthy structure. There is this normalized tension to be part of this fast-paced and overworked culture. Additionally, those living in the city are more affected by the pollution in the air, water, and food, not to mention the EMS from the 5G. We are so disconnected not only from nature, but from our food as well. Our lifestyle is killing us, not only physically and emotionally, but spiritually. We need to stop normalizing this lifestyle. After moving here, I have to say I am significantly healthier and happier. I wonder if this is one of the outcomes of the new age, where we begin moving back to small tribes and building self-sustainable communities. This retrograde in June will give us the opportunity to take a look at what isn't working in our lives so that we could build a new world as we move forward in this ascension process. Sending all of you love and light from Mount Shasta. I am so excited to be sharing yet another amazing month with all of you. Stay tuned for my next podcast in July.